Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to be working on a triangulated forelink for the budget Roadster build. So here, I just laid out all the components that I'm going to be using for my triangulated forelink that I'll be installing on the Rat Rod Roadster. But before we begin, I'm going to double check that the frame is level, side to side, and also forward to backward. And that will help me make sure that while I'm setting this up, everything will be nice and level and plumb. Now that I've got the frame nice and level, I'm going to start with the links that will run parallel with the frame. And I want these links to run parallel with the frame at ride height. Before I could begin to mount these though, I first need to box in this section of the frame. So as you saw, I got my pieces cut out there and I labeled them left and right side. And what I'm gonna do now is I really want these to be in two manageable size pieces. So I'm gonna lay them out here on this piece of steel. And what I wanna do is I wanna be able to cut these out and then use these nice straight edges to get everything lined up. So I'm gonna place these at about a spot that looks good there for that one. And I'm gonna go ahead and trace this guy out. level with a better magnet. There we go. It looks like I need to tuck it in there. So maybe I'll go get a clamp. Still level. There we go. So I got my pieces tacked in there and leveled there. I pretty much did the same thing on this side that I did over here. And now that they're nice and level, I'm gonna go ahead and fully weld those in, because the next thing that we're gonna do, those need to be secured. So I'm just gonna go ahead and weld up both of these sides. Okay, now that I got these pieces fully welded in, or mostly welded in, just welded it enough so that I could start hooking everything up. I'm gonna go ahead and start marking out where I'm going to put my front links. So I'm gonna bring you in closer so that we can take a better look. So I wanna mount this as low as possible here, preferably flush with the bottom of the frame. There we go. There we go. So I measured 1 inch up from there. So now I need about an inch off of this. No, I'm gonna go 1.25 inches off of there. Let's go 1.5 inches. Right there. So I cut this piece of threaded rod to about the same length as the width of this frame. And what this will allow me to do is now I can put a level on this and get this perfectly level. And I can already see that I am pretty dead on with my mark here. And remember, I leveled the frame side to side. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and drill my hole right there out. I just test fitted that, what I'm gonna do next is I need to open up this hole. And I want to open it up in order so that this nut will fit inside. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weld a captive nut into this hole so that way when this plate is on here, the nut will be back behind here. And then when I go to put my bolt in, everything will bolt through like that. So I need to open this up to about 13/16. Does this even have that? I'm gonna start with 3/4 and see where I end up. It's pretty significantly too small. I might just have to go somewhere in between 7/8 and 3/4, but let me grab a marker. Yeah, it's like just under 7/8. So I'm gonna start with 3/4 and then I'm just gonna slowly drill the bit in until I get this guy to fit in there kind of tight. And a trick that I like to use with these bits is if I have a measurement that I'm supposed to be drilling out to, I like to go ahead and color in the size after that size that I'm drilling out to. And that way, when I'm running the drill, I can stop right when I get to that size and I can still see it. And if you mark the size that you're drilling to, it'll disappear and you'll wear off the marker. Okay, so we're getting close. I'm gonna open it up just a little bit more. Okay, so that sits in there actually quite nicely. So it was, the good size is 7/8. Great. Now I'm just gonna do the same thing on the other side. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do now is I'm gonna weld the nut onto this plate. And that will then lock this in, and then that will be my captive nut. So I have my 2 plates with the captive nuts made, and I'm going to install them on the threaded rod one at a time. So I got these pieces in. And now what I need to do is I need to make the ears that are going to come out this way and support the bushings. So I'm going to probably just make another template and then cut it out of steel. So I made a couple more tabs, pretty much exactly like the way I made these ones here, except I didn't put any captive nuts in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take everything apart and put these guys on both sides, and I'll also stuff my pieces of cardboard in between in order to get the spacing correct. So I went ahead and got everything tacked in. See there? And now I'm just gonna go ahead and just weld it all up completely. Got everything fully welded, and at some point I am going to flip the frame over, and I'm going to get under here on any other places I might have missed, but for now I welded everything on top, enough to get everything set in place for sure. Going nicely. Okay, so now that I've got those in place, I'm probably going to call it for tonight, and tomorrow, if I have time, I'll probably start making the arms that will go from here back to the rear end. What I want to do next is I want to get this rear end moved forward in order that we can have it placed in the correct location. And what I'm doing is I'm planning for putting these airbags in. I want to have enough room that they sit about right here on top of the axle tubes. But in order to do that, I need to give myself some more space. So I'm going to remeasure the distance between the front and rear axle and place everything exactly where it needs to be before I move on with taking my measurements for lower 4-link bars. So in my previous video, I shortened this frame by about 10 inches because I was trying to establish a wheelbase of 103 inches. So since I moved this front crossmember forward about 6 inches, I increased the wheelbase by 6 inches. So now I'm sitting at about 109. So in order to fix that, I'm going to move the rear axle forward. So right now the axle is sitting at about 106 inches and I want it to be sitting at 103. So I'm going to go ahead and push the axle forward about 3 inches. Okay, so I've spent a little bit of time staring at everything and moving the axle and adjusting the left and right, and I think I've got it within a 1/16 of an inch, which I can definitely live with. Now, what I'm going to do is, the first thing I need to do is I need to make the link arms that go from here to here, and then after that's done, I can start making my brackets that will hold them on the axle. So there I have my original 41 Ford link arms that I'm gonna use, but first I'm gonna get some measurements and figure out what I need to do. So now I'm just gonna get my measurement, and this is just gonna be a rough measurement because it doesn't have to be precise. I'm just gonna round it to the nearest inch or ½ inch. And I'm assuming I'm gonna be about right here. And I'm gonna measure to the center of this here because that's where I'm gonna drill my hole and cut this, which you'll see how I do this later. But it'd be easier if I hold the tape like this. Go underneath the axle. Measure there to about there. And that puts me at 16 inches. So I'm gonna go ahead and make my radius arm 16 inches long. So now I've got my radius arms lined up relatively close together, or close to the exact spot that I want to use. And I'm using this end for the lower link bars and the other end I'll use for the upper bars. So I'm gonna measure a few, maybe about an inch in, because I am gonna cut these with the hole saw, and I just wanna make sure I'm cutting them in about the same spot. So here I have my square. I'm just gonna guess here. There's about an inch in from the edge. And then I'm just gonna guess like this. Let's see. Yes, these are slightly tapered. And they're about 2 inches wide at this point. So I'm just gonna measure the center in here. The center of that one is there. And this one is about the same. I got my centers marked out. And these are gonna be 16 inches long, so I'm gonna measure from this point back. So this stuff is getting in the way. There. This one out to 16 inches. Right there. Now I'm gonna cut these with the bandsaw. Lasted one, or barely 1.5. Thankfully I had another one. Looks like it's been sitting at the bottom of the ocean for decades. I'm gonna grab another battery. So I ended up having 3 of these bits, but I poured, sorry, let me get you guys. Poured a lick of oil on here just to give it a little bit of help. Hopefully I can make it through. I got all these pieces in, and now I'm ready to mock them up. And it's gonna go about like that. So what I think what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna clean up the ends of this and get them ready to tack in here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and tack this in. So I'm just gonna use the flap disc and just clean these up and just bevel this edge, bevel this edge. So I got everything tacked in and in place, and I've just been a little bit of time just kind of staring at it. And the whole idea is you want this bar to be level at ride height. And I'm pretty close to level now. This piece, I'll probably have to put a jack under it to get it perfect, but I'm pretty happy with this. And I also set a level on the axle, and the axle is pretty level. Also, I had to bring it up a little bit because this bar was running into it, and I don't mind if this bar is sticking in back underneath the axle slightly. So what I think I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and set up the other link arm. And as you saw earlier, I wasn't able to get all the way through with the hole saw, so I just cut the other half with the angle grinder, and I'm going to use the flap disc to continue cutting this, or shaping it, fish mouthing, whatever you want to call it. And then I'll go ahead and do what I did on this side, on this side. So as you can see by the mess of cardboard on the floor, I've been making a lot of templates, and the one I've settled on is this one here. And I'm gonna use this thickness of steel, and it'll all make sense later why I'm doing it like this. So this will be the bottom, and I'm gonna run everything 90 degrees. So if you could see how the lower arm link is hanging down below the axle right there, it's gonna hang down just like this and catch it in the front, hanging off the axle. And the reason why I'm making it this shape will make sense later, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and make 4 of these out of steel, and I'll show you what they look like when I'm done. So I got all my pieces cut out, and now it's time to start assembling. So now I'm just working on some mounts for the air ride suspension. And here I have my bag here that I'll take measurements off of. So once I do a little bit of sketching, I'll show you what I come up with. Y'all phase about that bagged life. Yaffe, what are you doing?